Well, it was blowout Monday in MLB action yesterday. Is Tuesday going to see some closer games, maybe some lower scoring? Well, you're going to find out here on First Pitch as we're looking to find you some winners on this Tuesday MLB slate, of which games there are many to select from. Dan Alexander here, and joining me, two of the best in the biz, as we always bring to you here on WagerTalk TV, Bryan, Leonard, Steve Merril in the house for a Tuesday edition. We're going to be talking Seattle, Boston, Washington, Arizona, the Blue Jays and the Orioles, Astros, Padres, and Braves, Brewers. Those are the games that are guaranteed. The other ones going to be decided by you joining us live. While you're joining us here live, make sure you hit that like button and you subscribe. If you're tuning in on social, hit that follow button. We would appreciate it, and so will your bankroll. So, gentlemen, let's get into it. Bryan, we're going to start with you here. 21 was the number. 21 runs, Bryan, that came across between Seattle and Boston yesterday. They say, we got to adjust this total. We got to put this thing up to 10. Any reason to think game two is going to be any different here? It looks like we're going to have Paxton making his second start here for the Red Sox, and he'll be opposed by Castillo. You thinking maybe we get some run correction here, or do we just look at that 10 and say, oh, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, let's go over?
Well, we've talked all season about the poor hitting conditions in Seattle, which in turn makes the Mariners hurlers overrated when going on the road. Just look at their starter today on Tuesday, Luis Castillo. At home, he has a 2.82 ERA, 105 whip. But when you look at his away games, his numbers jump to 4.11 ERA, 1.30 whip. Their two late inning relievers, Munoz and Garcia, who they just signed, got a trade from Toronto, each pitched 2 of the last 3 days, and the rest of the bullpen threw 92 pitches yesterday. So that means the Seattle bullpen's a little bit worn out here, and we're going to have to get a full game, a really good 6 innings out of Castillo. But as I mentioned, not as good on the road as the home. And in fact, if you take a look at Seattle's starting pitcher staff overall, they're known to be probably the best in baseball. But when you take away their home conditions and just look at the road, and now Steve's very good at looking at the batting, teams batting on the road. Take a look at the pitching for Seattle. They're just not the same as they are at home. So that's something we could take advantage of. Maybe just play Seattle home games under and Seattle road games over. And you could probably do a pretty good job on that the rest of the season. James Paxton, as you mentioned, I believe this is his first start coming back to Boston. He used to pitch in Boston, but he got traded from Los Angeles, which really Boston's really the only team that I think the way they set up their pitching staff was the only place he could go. I'm still surprised they even wanted him. But his numbers have never been the same after injuries cost him most of the 2020, 2021, and 2022 seasons. His advanced stats show he is worse than league average in every meaningful category. Red Sox management has made it a point this year to throw less fastballs. This worked out great. I really admire them doing that. I thought this is something that teams should do all along. Paxton throws his four-seamer 57.5% of the time, allowing a 371 expected WOBA. But his cutter and sinker are even worse. So we have doubts about his ability to get big league hitters out. The wind is expected to be blowing out in Fenway at 15 miles an hour today. So another reason to expect a high-scoring affair. I think both of these teams light them up offensively. I look for the scheme to go over, and 10 probably isn't high enough, as Boston games normally are in that 9-10 range, and Seattle's offense is so much better on the road than it is at home.
Taking a look at the over in this one, open 9.5. We saw money show for the over. Now, not only are we painted at 10, we're seeing some over minus 120s. So the market agreeing with how Bryan Leonard is seeing this game. Runs galore coming in Boston. Hop below in the comments. Let us know what games you think might be going over today. Looking at where the money's coming, market thinks a lot of games are going to be going over today. Steve, let's talk Blue Jays and Orioles. And Bryan mentioned the wind going out a bit in the game he was talking about. We do have a batch of storms that we're looking at here rolling through Baltimore. So maybe there's going to be a window to get this one in. Maybe we get a postponement, but split the doubleheader yesterday. So I'm wondering how game 3 you see shaken out, because it was just a tale of 2 games. It was blowout one way, blowout the other way. So does it settle in a little bit more in game 3 if the weather at least cooperates? What does Steve Merril think?
Yeah, I like the Orioles in this game. I didn't want to use it as the best bet for the show because, as you mentioned, Dan, there's a chance it might not make it, and it also could be a delay, which always adds uncertainty. But I wanted to spotlight this still as a big game breakdown for another reason we have to talk about here throughout the show, is that the MLB trade deadline is at 6 o'clock Eastern tonight, in exactly less than 7 hours, as we do this show live at 11 a.m. Eastern every weekday on WagerTalk TV. But seriously, I mean, this is something that's going to throw a wrench, not only the weather in this game, but the trade deadline, because there's a lot of uncertainty. And this is another spotlight game that highlights it, because the Blue Jays, in my opinion, should be sellers. They have not really been as sellers like we thought they would so far. I would not be shocked to see the floodgates maybe open this afternoon, maybe not. My Baltimore Orioles, everyone thinks, Adam Trigger thinks it's a disgrace if they don't pick up a pitcher. Well, they did. They got Eflin from Tampa. I think he wants him to get Crochet. And by the way, the rumor is that the Dodgers and Orioles are the 2 teams in the running for Garrett Crochet from the White Sox. He has thrown a wrench in the works, though. He says he will not pitch this postseason unless whatever team picks him up signs him to a long-term extension. And that's because his current terms with Chicago are very favorable, because he has not been very good until this season when he came out of the bullpen and had Tommy John surgery a couple years ago. So it looks like the Dodgers are probably the only team that could afford to vastly overpay Crochet. I hope the Orioles do not do it. I think they're smart enough not to do it. So I think the Orioles are probably done. They've got Burns, they've got Eflin, they've got a great farm system, some good hitters. Toronto's a team that could be a seller this afternoon. So I like Baltimore in this spot. It's a hefty price. You probably got to play the run line, get it down to even money instead of laying the 190, 200, as you see on the screen there. You could also make a -1 run by playing half a unit each. That gets it down to like -1, -150. So it's basically a straight up win situation at that point. You mentioned that the Blue Jays did get the second game yesterday, but that was the second of a doubleheader. The Orioles won easily 11-5 in the first one. Wouldn't talk you off the team total Orioles over as well. Orioles can rake with anybody, good power hitting team. And if the Blue Jays aren't fully focused for this game, could see some runs from the Baltimore side. So I like the Orioles here. We'll just have to keep an eye on the weather and see what happens.
WT.buzz/SM. That's where you can find him over at WagerTalk. You can find Bryan, WT.buzz/BL. Guys, we're going to talk the Braves and Brewers here, and then we're going to get to this early game for some of our early viewers, talk Guardians and Tigers up next. But first, Bryan, I just want to get your thoughts, because Steve touched upon it there about how trade deadline is coming today. How heavily does that affect how you bet some of these games? Do you look at teams that you already have tabbed in as buyers, as sellers, or is it just kind of, hey, it's another day in the calendar, it doesn't affect it too much? So as far as the trade deadline being that finite cutoff here at the end of the evening, does it make you pause on maybe some plays or make you fire on others, or do you just keep going the course as you usually do? How do you approach it, Bryan?
Actually, it works out very well for our standpoint, because the only day game is the Cleveland-Detroit game. That's the only game I'm concerned about from when you're looking at players to be traded, because they're right in the middle of the game. By the time the night games go off, everybody on the team knows where they're going to be. So it's going to be more of a relief for these players on tonight's card, knowing they're either where they're supposed to be or they have to travel. And I think that is what is going to be a benefit to a lot of these teams, is they know where they're at. Everybody wants to know, no matter what kind of job you've ever had, whether it be in a promotion or transfer to another city, you want to know for your family what's going on. And there's a lot of stress. And, Steve just talked about the Toronto team. I've been very impressed the way Toronto has treated this the last few days. They've been playing very well. There's been all these rumors about some of these key players being traded, and the key players that are talking about are having a great week. So it's something that I've got to admit. Toronto, I lost a pretty good amount of money on them earlier in the season, but now they're playing pretty well, and so doesn't seem to be affecting them as well. So I don't think it's something that we need to look much past the Cleveland-Detroit game in that regard today.
Yeah, well, then let's just touch upon that real quick since it's the early game, since it's the one that has the most uncertainty. Guardians-Tigers going at 1:10 Eastern today. It's Williams and Holton in that one. And with that uncertainty, Bryan, was it enough for you to just cross it off, or do you have any leans or thoughts in that early start time?
I kind of like the over in it. It does have a situation where Gavin Williams is a guy who came up last year in the minor leagues. He was a major strike thrower, big strikeout numbers. Got to the majors last year, and his first few starts, he really struggled striking people out. People were wondering what was going on, and then he picked it up a little bit as the season went on. But it's the same way this year. His strike percentage is 21.9, walk percentage 9.3, which only leaves him a 12.0 K minus walk ratio, which isn't very impressive. But everybody who knows Gavin Williams and has watched Gavin Williams thinks he's got a great future. It hasn't happened yet. He pitched a little bit better last time out, but he has struggled so far. So until he gets everything back to normal, he didn't have the spring training, so it's taken him longer to get going here. So I think Detroit will be able to hit him. And Detroit's offense has played very well as of late. This is a team that's, despite playing 500 ball on the season, they're doing very well. And speaking of a guy who expected to be traded, Tarek Skubal, I never understood this one. He's got a decent contract. Why would they trade their best player? They're a 500 ball club right now. They've got some pretty good young players. They brought up a couple more of them yesterday after trading some players. So Detroit's in it. I think Detroit's, they may sell, they may buy, but I think both these teams offensively are in for a good day. Cleveland hits lefties very well, and Holton will be the spot starter for Detroit, and he's a lefty. And they've had the bullpen got a lot of use lately, so I think both of these teams should be able to go up and over this number.
Potential overlook there in the early game. You have some early action. Hop below in the comments. Let us know. Steve, anything for you on that one? If not, why don't you let us know what you think about this Brewers and Braves game? Because of the overs, of which there were many, this was another one that soared over the total on Monday. No thanks really to the Braves bats, but 8 runs coming across for the Brewers. So obviously any thoughts in that early game. But as far as the Braves and Brewers are concerned, Elder versus Ross here this evening starting at 8:10. Anything stand out to you in that one?
Yeah, I was actually going to use the under yesterday in the Tiger game with Flaherty, and he was scratched. He definitely looks like he's on the trading block, and he's not going now this afternoon, as Bryan said. So I would say he's probably being moved, but we'll see. And that, like Bryan said, excellent point. It's a 1 o'clock game, so we'll know way before the trade deadline at 6 Eastern. Brewers, Braves, I'll keep this one short and sweet, Dan Alexander. There's no line except the DraftKings right now because Milwaukee is undecided. I will have a standalone solo video for this in a couple hours later this afternoon once we have more certainty. So check WagerTalk TV here for a standalone 3 to 4 minute breakdown and free play in this Braves Brewers game here. Yet another reason, hit subscribe and hit the bell for instant alerts when that video is posted.
All right, Steve. Well, you're not getting off that easy. You're still going to have to talk some games.
I talked about 2 games. Barely talked about 2 different games. I get a third. God,
you get a third
with
here.
The big game breakdown still, and I've already covered 3 games on this show. Come on, man.
This is fair. That's fair, Steve. But that's why we pay you the big bucks here, Steve. So we'll get you right here on the chat. I don't know if they want blood from me. I don't know if they're just trying to rub it in. They want to talk Phillies and Yankees.
Yes.
I will tell you, yesterday I gave the stamp of approval, best bet on the show from Drew Martin, take the plus money with the Yankees. And I was like, I'm making no dissension there. The only thing that gave me pause was Wheeler was on the bump. That's why you got that number. And now today we see Nola on the hill for the Philadelphia Phillies. He'll be opposed by Garrett Cole. This Phillies team, though, I don't think it's as much, Steve, as they're resting on their laurels, as it's just, things are catching up to them. Some things that kind of winning assuages all, winning can cover up all, winning cures all, however you want to say it. these were issues for the Phillies team that was bubbling under the surface. Inconsistent starting pitching, definitely bad ends on the back end of that bullpen, and hitting that you just can't rely on to be in and night out. And it reared its ugly head in the last 4 and now the start of the last 5 series here. Yankees Phils for you, Steve. Is this just set it and forget it? Keep taking this plus money with the Yankees until they flip the favorite?
Yeah, I'm not looking to back the Phillies team that's 1-4 their last 5. And then on top of that, the Yankees, my initial thought was, 2 decent pitchers, the Yankees an inconsistent offense, but the Yankees offense has broken out recently here. What is it, like 33 runs, I think, the last 3 games? They've had double-digit hits. It does look like their offensive momentum is pretty good right now. And it also, as you said, for you, unfortunately, well, although it doesn't matter. Hey, if you want them to get cold in late July, right? They've got plenty of baseball to play.
Sure.
Does look like the Phillies are maybe trending down right now. But we've talked about it all year. They're due for a regression at some point. They're not going to win 65% of their games all year. So it does look like these are 2 Class A teams right now. They're somewhat heading in opposite directions. Garrett Cole's been a bit of an inconsistent factor since coming back, but he's still an ace pitcher when he brings his A game. To pick 'em price here, it would be hard to make a case against the Yankees until we see otherwise.
Well, for you, Bryan, this Yankees team is a team that you've been bet on, you've been bet against, you've been picking your spots with them, maybe to the chagrin of pulling your hair out sometimes with trying to find when we bet on this Yankees team. But you can't ignore 6 homers coming across against an ace. So now the Phillies, they trot out their 1A ace, I guess we can say, with Nola at home. And he definitely does pitch better at home. But anything to you stand out in this? Like, do we just grab that over again? And then we just, hey, maybe the Yankees hit the over by themselves again here tonight. Or do you see this maybe coming back down to earth? It is worth mentioning, though, Bryan, that same storm that we're tracking through Baltimore, that's the one that's going to be heading towards Philadelphia tonight. So you could potentially be looking at a washout here. But if this game is going to be going, any thoughts in this one for you?
Well, I wish I would have listened to you guys in regards to the game yesterday, because I was on WagerTalk today and I split my 2 plays and my loss was on Philadelphia. I couldn't believe the line was that low with as well as Wheeler had pitched at home. So that was a surprise. And then, of course, I'm watching the overnight lines here, and I see Philadelphia about a 115 favorite. Now I'm seeing Pinnacle on the WagerTalk line screen. Pinnacle has the Yankees minus 105, Philadelphia minus 103. So they're taking money on the Yankees. I don't know. Obviously bringing in Jazz Chisholm has done wonders for this Yankee offense, but still the bottom of that order is terrible compared to what Philadelphia has. Philadelphia brought in, one of the outfielders for the Orioles. They bought in the closer of the Angels. So Philadelphia's making improvements. They know that they're not an unbeatable team. I think the line's cheap in this instance. They're not going to overlook the Yankees. The Yankees are the Yankees. The Yankees got Garrett Cole on the mound. This is not a team that's going to overlook. I am not a guy who plays streaks. I look for value in teams that are streaking the opposite way. Philadelphia, they've lost 4 out of 5, but to me, they're the better team than the Yankees are. They're playing at home, and as Steve pointed out, Garrett Cole's been up and down. He had really 1 good game since he's been back. The rest of the time it's been a struggle. He's had to ditch one of his pitches because it's just one of his major pitches because it's just not moving the way he wants it to be. And when you have one of those pitches that you just throw out, you can't automatically just develop another one to have that kind of success. So I have concerns about Garrett Cole right now. And in fact, I'm in some pretty high-end fantasy baseball leagues, and one of the teams dropped Garrett Cole. So they see something that they don't like out of Garrett Cole. And this may be the only fantasy team in the country that dropped Garrett Cole, but I'm not the only one that has some concerns about him.
Yeah, and again, for what it's worth, as far as you talk about playing streaks, it wasn't ancient history in that Guardian series where the Phil's bats don't get anything going in game 1. Game 2, they explode 8-0. And then, it was a 1-run game that made the difference there. So it's almost like when the Phillies win, they end up winning big. So, hey, I know it's the home team, but if you think they're going to get it done, I know people don't really like laying the 1.5, but if that's the way that you want to look towards it, hey, I'm not saying that's going to be my bet. This game is a sheer pass for me because I'm concerned about what we're seeing about the Philadelphia Phillies. I'm taking my plus money I got on the Yankees yesterday and kicking my feet up and being a homer in that game. Steve, we got some questions here. Eric D., one of our loyal listeners here on YouTube, we appreciate you tuning in here. While you're hanging out, hit that like button and subscribe. You can also throw in some questions on Instagram, TikTok, and X. And if you're hanging out there, make sure you hit the follow button. But ED's wondering about this Dodgers and Pirates game. We talked some of these early games, some of the 6 o'clock starts. So we got a 9:40 Eastern start here in this one. Dodgers and Padres. ED points out that the Padres 4-1 in their last 5, putting up runs plus money. Dodgers and San Diego kick off the 2-game set here, a little midweek 2-game set action. You got any thoughts here in game 1, Steve?
So what, Padres 4-1 their last 5? I think they're going to be 4-2 their last 6. That's my thought on this game. No, I like the Dodgers. I think they remain an underrated team. And, you know, Bryan talked about, hey, Phillies at pick 'em, Yankees at pick 'em. Oh, by the way, guys, I want to point this out on Garrett Cole. His numbers haven't been great overall. He's faced the Mets twice. Those are 2 of his real bad outings, his 2 worst outings. He's given up 7 home runs the 2 times he faced the Mets. And I believe he's given up only 2 home runs in his other 5 starts combined. So we'll find out tonight about Garrett Cole. He's coming off a terrible showing against New York. So that's another reason I think it's a high-profile game tonight, because Cole is an important part of that Yankee future this year. As far as the Dodgers, you know, I've talked about them for a couple weeks now, Dan, on this show especially, that who would have thought this point of the season, the Dodgers that were supposed to be like 120-0 right now, we'd be getting them at like minus 130 prices. We got them last week at home almost the whole way there. Now we're getting them as a small road favorite. San Diego is a bit of an underrated team, and they're playing decent baseball. Kind of like Seattle, this has not been a hitter-friendly park. But once again, we don't have to lay the run line here. We don't need to win by margin with the total at 7.5. We could take the Dodgers at minus 125, minus 130. And Glasnow is a good pickup for them. You know, I talked about they might be in the market for Crochet. I hope they're not, because I think he's a huge gamble being a converted reliever who's thrown double the innings he's ever pitched after Tommy John surgery now. The Dodgers don't care. They throw money around. Glasnow is an all-star. He picked him up in the offseason, and I like them tonight over San Diego. The Dodgers remain a play-on team for me, and it's crazy. This line opened as high as minus 150. It's now down to minus 127, minus 126. Who would have thought we'd see that happen this point of the season, that the Dodgers would drop almost 25 cents and be at this price?
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're not kidding there, Steve. It is a little bit surprising. And, you know, you can always argue, hey, am I getting a little bit of value here? In the chat here, Eric D. also pointing out, hey, people betting on that Phillies game. He's worried that the weather might kill the action on that one. So I'll just run down a couple of the other games that may be effective. We already talked about the Cleveland and Detroit game. Looks like just spotty showers. That one should be good to go. Toronto, Baltimore, we mentioned potential postponement in that one. If those storms push through to Philly, you're going to be seeing a lot of rain going through there. Bryan mentioned the wind that's going to be in Boston, so that could be potentially contributing towards that over money that we're seeing. Minnesota and the New York Mets, maybe some pop-up showers, but we should be good there. And then Texas, St. Louis, the other one that we're tracking, a little bit of discrepancy on what they think is going there, but one that should be clean and clear to go. Maybe a spotty shower here and there, but nothing that will affect the game, is the series that just sees it's the Chicago Cubs and the Cincinnati Reds. So last night, the Reds, they get the win, but they lose a starting pitcher. So maybe they win the battle but lose the war. It kind of throws a wrench in their plans of maybe making a little bit of run here in the series, because now they had to scramble, change their starting pitcher here. So we got Steele and Martinez. The Battle of the Seas. Anything stand out to you, Bryan?
Have you seen Martinez being the starter? Because I'm still showing undecided, and most places don't have a line on it. In fact, that Atlanta game
you're
doesn't have
right.
a line anywhere. So, without knowing the starter, I'd rather touch on some other games. But I do want to point out, in regards to the Dodgers, I'm not disappointed with the Dodgers at all. I knew that they were going to have an easy time in the division, and it wouldn't take them long to, they're not going to go 100% every time. But take a look at the injuries that they've had all season long, especially from this starting rotation. I'm surprised they're doing as well as they have based on how many injuries they've had. And They do have an advantage that they're going against the knuckleballer for the Padres tonight. They're a divisional rival. They will know him better than other teams will. I expect him to have a lot of success against teams that don't see him because he's a knuckleballer. He's the only one in Major League Baseball right now. But the Dodgers being in that division know him. They've seen him. They have a little bit of an advantage. So, yeah, that line's getting down right now. I'm seeing a 125 at Pinnacle. That's a cheap number for getting glass now here for this Dodgers team.
Yeah, absolutely. Good breakdown there from our man Bryan Leonard. And yeah, a lot of uncertainty here on trade deadline Tuesday. That is for darn sure. We got Scott Chaffee asking about the Astros and the Pirates. So, Steve, let's talk some best bets here for the folks. Let folks know what you have rocking over at your page, wt.buzz/SM. Quickest way to get there. You have some thoughts here on the Astros and Padres. As a matter of fact, your best bets in this one. How are you looking to break this one down, Steve? And what do you got locked and loaded over at your page?
Yeah, don't forget, football starts in 2 nights. How crazy is that? August 1st, this Thursday night, the Hall of Fame game in the NFL. Treading lightly in the preseason. Obviously, now we're going to be going hardcore in the next few weeks. But my point is, get ready for football. August is just a couple days around the corner. We've got great long-term early bird specials still available for college and pro football. Also, make sure you subscribe and click the bell for instant alerts. My NFL Fade the Public video only about a month away as well. My college football weekly top 25 videos here a month away as well. So in the meantime, get some free baseball plays. I will have a free video for you in that Braves-Brewers game once we have a line on it this afternoon here on WagerTalk TV. And I always post a free play on my page as well. So yes, the best bets are the way to build your bankroll. But if you're a new bettor, check out my page, Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com, for a free play as well. It's a game that's just a bit outside for making the cut. And one of those games I'm going to give you here on the show, just a bit outside, is the Houston Astros. Little pricey for me at that minus 190 range. So we're going to have to play the run line here on the Astros, get them down to minus 1.5 plus money. But I like the sound of that, getting some plus money on Houston, who's as good as anyone in baseball right now. Yes, the 55-51 record might not be very impressive on the surface, but keep in mind this team started the year 7-19 out of the gate. That means they have quietly gone 48-32 since, and that's as good as anybody in baseball, basically. They're peaking at the right time. They got the bullpen in check, and they have a solid team top to bottom. Pittsburgh, 54-52. They're technically just one game behind the Astros, and this is why overall seasonal records can be so misleading, because I think Pittsburgh, especially when they don't have Skeens on the mound going forward, are going to struggle. I like the fact that they stole a game last night, but keep in mind, they had Skeens on the mound. They didn't steal a game. They were a favorite in that game. Now it's the letdown spots. We get the better team off an excusable loss. Houston Astros are my pick here, and I don't think they'll be making any moves at the deadline, so we're going to get the true lineup tonight on Tuesday. Take a look at the Houston Astros. Play the run line, minus 1.5 plus money as your free play. And don't forget, if you want my strongest best bets tonight for Tuesday, check them out right now. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com.
Yeah, and with the Pirates win, it didn't even get attributed to Paul Skeens. So it was Taylor's bat that made the difference there in the 9th. So, yeah, definitely you can say he stole a game, but as Steve mentioned, can't really steal a game when you're a favorite. You can maybe get lucky at the back end of the game and you get a win, get a cover. But the fading Skeens train rolls on, and that's fading the Pirates after Skeens starts. Scott Chaffee, I mentioned how he's liking that game too. Steve, he's going alt line. Astros 2.5. So he thinks big time blowout, getting plus money, especially in that one. Best of luck on your wager, Scott. Appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you hit that like button while you're hanging out. Bry, it's Patrick Corbin Day. We get to celebrate accordingly. So as you're celebrating in this Washington-Arizona game, is it the straight fade of Patrick Corbin? Is it just asking for runs, team total, or the whole game goes over? What do you think in this one? And I would be remiss, Bry, if you didn't tell the folks about one of the strongest plays that you're eyeing tonight. A 5%er is up and rocking over at your page. So let us know how we're betting and the fade of Patrick Corbin, and also let folks know what that 5% that you're excited about and that they can find over at your page is all about.
Yeah, if I agree with Steve. If you like Houston, I think Houston's a pretty good bet. I expect that line to go up, so grab it now, whether you're playing them on the money line or on the run line. I think that's a good situation for them. 5% play today, 4-0 on the season on our baseball 5% plays. In fact, if you take a look at all of our plays, 3% or higher, 39-1. I believe that's 76%. So we've done very well on our best bets. We're number one since May 1st in Major League Baseball in total net profit on the diamond. So baseball's been very good to us, and we really like this 5% play tonight. It's not a game that is expected to be any rain involved. So
beautiful.
You can be confident on being able to get your bet in on that one. I'm going to take a look here for my best bet on the show, the Washington-Arizona game. If you watched the game yesterday, it was a lot of fun. The Nationals blew an 8-4 lead last night as their closer Kyle Finnegan permitted 5 earned runs in only a third of an inning. The bullpen threw 88 pitches last night, 51 the prior day, 66 the day before that. So needless to say, Patrick Corbin will have to eat some innings tonight, and that's not a good thing. We've faded him many times, but I have been able to pick out a couple times that to back him, and I've had success in good numbers, but not tonight. The veteran lefty has produced ERAs the last 4 seasons. Keep in mind, this is a guy who has started the season. I believe he heads the opening day starter for Washington, but the last 4 years, his ERAs have been 5.26, 5.20, 6.31, 5.82, and if you take a look at his advanced stats, the expected ERAs, he's been pretty lucky to get those numbers. So it's even worse than that. So he's obviously somebody I'm going to look to fade for this Arizona team, who now that they've got just about everybody healthy in the lineup, this is a team that can really put some runs on the board. Even Corbin Carroll came out and pitch hit and hit the game-winning home run last night. He's starting to play much better than he had earlier in the season. Diamondbacks are going with Ryan Nelson, who we faded last time out versus the Royals. And, he had solid outings his previous 3 starts, but we weren't buying it. His career 4.87 ERA, 1.38 whip gave us plenty of reasons to doubt him. We doubt him again here. I think Washington could get to him. When you're taking a look in against Arizona versus lefties on the season, a 113 WRC plus. They've hit southpaws all year long. I expect both teams to get some offense going tonight. I like the over between Arizona and Washington.
Yeah, while this one's painted 9, we are seeing some minus 115 starting to show towards that over. So some potential over money showing there. You definitely, as it's sitting on that key number of 9, want to grab that sooner rather than later and save yourself some juice. Definitely save yourself if it pushes back to that 9.5. So the over the play on Patrick Corbin Day for Bryan Leonard. But really the story is you better go over to WT.buzz/BL and grab that 5% play, because a 4-0 run, nothing to sneeze at there. Bryan Leonard seeing it well on these plays. And again, four of them cash, and it's not like the guy's just throwing them out there. This is a top-rated play for a reason. Check that out, WT.buzz/BL. He's Bryan Leonard. Steve Merril was also eyeing the Astros lay in the 1.5. That was the best bet for him. Big thanks to these guys. You want to give them a thanks, hit that like button right here on this video. It's a great way to help us grow. Hop below in the comments and let us know what your best bets are going to be here tonight. And let us know if you agree, if you disagree with the old dais here today. And again, if you're watching us on X, TikTok, Instagram, hit that follow button and share some of the videos with your folks. It's not just the live shows that we got going here, single game breakdown videos, content around the clock on social, and of course, the flagship WagerTalk TV right here on your YouTube channel. We appreciate you. Big thanks to Bryan. Big thanks to Steve. I'm Dan Alexander. We'll be back locked and loaded following the trade deadline. Nobody getting traded here. We'll be back first pitch on Wednesday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. over there on the West Coast. Until then, best of luck, folks, and hang out 30 minutes from now. Wager Talk today coming your way. More actionable info, Olympics betting, MLB action, and the Gold Sheet $2 play. Ralph Michaels representing them coming up on Wager Talk today. Don't go anywhere, and we'll see you next time, folks.